Hey everybody, how you doing? Tekking101 here, and I have to apologize for something I said yesterday in the video. Oh, by the way, the Buggy video, the Buggy Day, everything went off without a hitch. Buggy is now officially the leader of his new religion, so all of that stuff is going swimmingly in the world. Sorry for hitting your wingberry. But no, at the end of the video, I said that today was going to be the chapter review. I forgot that, for whatever reason, the official Viz release of One Piece is pushed back a day this week. So August 10th or tomorrow, Monday, that's going to be the release of the chapter. But that actually ended up working great for me because I really wanted to finish up the Return to the Reverie series. I really wanted to talk about chapter 6. So we're going to be doing that today. Final chapter of Return to the Reverie by the great Artur Sama and Gemini. And then tomorrow we'll be doing chapter 987 review. So that'll be great. We got a lot of stuff to cover because this is the epic climax. It's the climax, ladies and gentlemen. We got a lot of stuff to cover. Expanded chapter, a lot of information. I'm not going to give you the backstory. Like, Artur's awesome. Gemini's awesome. There actually is no cover page, no guest cover page artist this week because Gemini, who's the artist for the entire project, was the one that did the special cover spread this week, and I'm sure you'll love it. If you're a Final Fantasy fan, you'll definitely love it. But yeah, let's just dive right into this. This is the climax of Return to the Reverie. Let's see if it lives up. So I'm gonna move that over here. I'm gonna click on this, and then are you ready for this? Bam! Oh yeah, okay, so this is an epic cover spread of the Straw Hats all being depicted as Final Fantasy VII characters. Now, this chapter came out, remember, in June, so this was like 2 months ago this actually came out, and that was like right after the Final Fantasy VII like remaster came out for the PS4, or at least the first part of it, the Midgard, portion of it. I have not played that game yet. I was gonna buy it, but I never really did. I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima right now, but I'm gonna probably pick this up at some point. I played Final Fantasy VII before, not when it came out, because I would have been like, when did it come out, like 97? I was like probably like 4 years old when it came out. I played it a little bit when I was in high school, but I didn't get very far in the game. Actually, most of what I know, the only reason I would even know the names of all of these characters is because I watch Team 4 Star's Final Fantasy VII Machina Bridge, which I think the last season of that is happening this year as well. So yeah, it's all because of that I even know, because I never even got to the point in the game where you get introduced to Vincent or Sid when I played it in high school. So yeah, but this is absolutely amazing. So Gemini did this, a gift for a friend. The Straw Hats as the cast of Final Fantasy VII by Tina Fate 1, which is Gemini's Twitter handle. So you have Luffy and Zoro being depicted as Cloud and Zack, respectively. Then you have Usopp back there as Sephiroth, which is glorious because, I mean, come on now, Usopp is God. That could literally be Usopp's final form in this story. So that is glorious back there. You have Sephiroth, Usopp. Brooke is Vincent Valentine, of course. Robin is Tifa. You know what? I was gonna say, if you were going to depict the Final Fantasy, if you're going to depict the Straw Hats as the Final Fantasy cast, you'd think that Nami would be that shoo-in for Tifa, right? But no, Gemini went with Robin as Tifa, and I think that was way more of a better move. I mean, I'm sure Nami in Tifa's sexy outfit, that would have worked great as well. But, me personally, I would have preferred Robin in that, so here we are. Nami is, of course, Eris down there in the corner, and then we have Carrot being depicted as a member of the Straw Hats with everybody else, so another hats off to you there, Gemini. I mean, everyone might not be a fan of that equally, but, well, we all know I am. So yeah, Carrot is Yuffie, Ninja Girl, and then we have Chopper as Red 13 down there in the bottom. Let's see, we have Frankie as Barrett, Sanji as Sid, and I believe Jinbei and Zeus are supposed to be Kate Sith and Mog. I believe that's because that's the situation with Kate Sith being Zeus, and then Mog being Jinbei underneath Zeus riding on top of Jinbei. So yeah, glorious cover page art. Love that you include Carrot. So let's move on because there's a lot of stuff to unpack in this chapter. Okay, so last time we left off, Eam was fighting against Dragon, and it was a battle for the ages. Unfortunately, Dragon wasn't able to really fight back against Eam too much because Eam, as we find out, has the ability to control all water, and that's the ultimate weakness of all Devil Fruit users. And the reason that they are weak to water is because of Eam's existence. Eam says to Dragon Dragon, like, the reason why all Devil Fruit users are weak to the ocean or weak to water is because I control water. So no single Devil Fruit user could be stronger than me with this power, right? And so Dragon got spirited away. He got blasted away by Kuma's Paw fruit that Eam had stolen from Kuma and taken it into himself. And so we start up with this chapter arriving in the Kamabaka Kingdom. So we have Ivankov's massive head. Dragon, so you are safe. Boy, am I glad to see you. I can't really talk as Ivankov speaks. But anyway, so Dragon has landed at the Kamabaka Kingdom, which is the current headquarters for the Revolutionary Army ever since, you know, Baltigo got ransacked by Blackbeard's crew. So he comes to here and he's like, oh, you're in Kamabaka Kingdom. You know, everyone's like, oh, the Commander General is back. Everything is good. And they just assume that Kuma used his powers to send Dragon back. So they don't actually think anything's amiss yet because they just figure, oh, things must have gotten rough at the Reverie, but you must have returned Kuma's sanity to him, and he used his Paw powers to return to you here. Chapter 6, the beginning of the end. And so you got Bello Betty, you got Koala there, and Dragon's getting up, and he's just like, oh no, screw this, I need to get back there. Don't mind about Saba, I need to make sure everyone's okay. And they're like, well, don't you understand, you know, you've been flying for 3 days, and the Reverie ended today. And we even have a little nurse there helping out Dragon. Oh, there's Inazuma off to the side. I love Inazuma. Inazuma has such a cool design with the stripes and everything like that. I also like that Inazuma's name just literally means lightning bolt. That just immediately earns points for me. So, Ivankov's like, yeah, it makes sense. You know, Kuma's power sends you flying for 3 days and 3 nights. And so it was the 4th day of the Reverie when they were all fighting, probably near the end of the 4th day. So it's already the 7th day of the Reverie. So the Reverie's already ended today, and all the kings and queens and everybody are going home. And so Dragon's like, I don't have time to explain. I need to get back there. But unfortunately, he tries to use his wind powers to travel, but he realizes his Devil Fruit powers are gone. And everyone's like, ah, what? Like, gasp? You know, all of the gasps. Gasping in every language, you know? So, yeah, that's a big deal. That's a pretty big deal. Now, we've already learned, yeah, Eam took Kuma's abilities. So, the fact that Eam, if Eam is like the progenitor to all Devil Fruits or whatever, it would make sense that Eam could basically be like All for One from My Hero Academia and just take powers whenever he so desires or they ever so desire and just absorb it back into themselves. So, yeah, Dragon is now Devil Fruitless. Although, how fruitless that he's Devil Fruitless. But no, he's still got pretty badass hockey, so he can still fight and stuff. But, yeah, that's a really powerful fruit he has, and now that's gone. So, yeah, hold on, let me get a drink. Okay, so now we cut back to Reverie. Despite their efforts, the revolutionaries were captured by the admirals, and so the conference continued originally as planned. So, yeah, that whole moment where Dragon walks in and on the table, and he's like, I need you to just listen to me, kings and queens. That all, I guess, just gets thrown out the window, much like the Gorosei. Because, you know, Sabo and the rest of the commanders were captured by Fujitora and Green Bull. Remember, last chapter, though, it was revealed that Green Bull and Fujitora were actually members of Sword. So it wasn't like they were actually captured and they're going to be, like, executed or they're beaten up pretty badly. I mean, they might be beaten up a little bit, but it's like they're not, like, dead yet. So they're just talking about how each ruler is returning home with different feelings in their hearts, but all of them could tell that this was just a prelude to something greater. Also, the move of Fishman Island to the surface was approved, and the warlord system was successfully abolished. So those were the two big discussions of Reverie that have been successfully approved of. The dissolution of the Shishibukai system and the raising of Fishman Island to the surface, which I'm sure is all just a part of Eam's master plan in the grand scheme. Attempted genocide on the Celestial Dragons. 5 elders assassinated in the process. The culprits will be executed in a month from now. So that is the big headline that we got to see. Well, we didn't really get to see the full breadth of what it was. We only got to see a little bit of it in the actual manga. Something related to Sabo, and the revolutionary armies were all, like, the commanders were all freaking out about that, like, oh, it can't be, not Sabo, and so that was the headline, at least in the version here in the fan chapter, that Sabo had everything pinned on him, and the rest of the commanders of the revolutionary army. Dragon, I guess, is not really mentioned in the article, it's mostly just Sabo, and so, yeah, the culprits will be executed a month from now. This was the article that the government did not want Morgans to publish. And so you have Lucci there. Freaking Stussy is still a child. So yeah, she's stuck like that, I guess. So he didn't cover up that headline. Damn, Morgans, this is gonna throw things off balance. So now everybody all over the world knows that the Gorosei are freaking dead. So I can understand why the government would definitely send someone to put a hush order on Morgans for that, because he's like, you cannot freaking publish a story that the five elders are dead, because as far as the world is concerned, the five elders, they're the ones that actually rule the entire show. They're the ones that rule the world. If you come out and say, oh yeah, they're all dead, then there's going to be panic. There's going to be, in the streets, people are going to be like, who's the heads of the world government now? What? Yeah, you would maybe manage to get some of the citizens on your side, because they'd be like, those damn revolutionaries, they destroyed the freaking world government. They wiped out the Gorosei. How dare they? You might get the civilians on their side, but at the end of the day, I think Morgans is just, he's really into big news. That's just his thing. He's like, big news! I need to tell people about the big news! And this was like the biggest news. Let's be straight up here. So yeah. Kaku also brings up off to the side, he's like, it seems things aren't going well at the Wano country either. At this rate, we won't even have enough weapons to work with. So this was also kind of building up to the whole kind of purge they were planning. The Gorosei were talking about, there's going to be this big purge. We're going to need weapons for that. And, the government's definitely stockpiling a lot of stuff. Dragon brought that up. So now we're going to cut over to various areas in the world, much like Oda does at the end of every major arc. We kind of cut around the world to see what other people are saying or doing. So we have the Sabaody Archipelago here, where we see Rayleigh and Shocky hanging out, and Rayleigh's just reading the paper pretty nonchalant, like, Big Mom and Kaido? Seems like Luffy's gotten himself into quite a predicament. It's like, too Yonko, but Luffy can handle it. And then Shocky's just like, oh, those two, huh? It takes me back to when we first met. Man, we nearly killed each other so many times, Ray. I miss the old days. I think about Rocks sometimes, those old days. So this is confirming that Shocky was a member of Rocks, which even in the current manga, it's never been directly stated, but it's pretty much implied that Shocky and Ray have a relationship with each other. Shocky was a pirate 40 years ago, which was at the time of Rocks' height, and she was also chased around by Garp a lot. Garp got his epithet, the hero, by defeating Rocks at God Valley. So you can connect the dots there. And also Oda pretty much already came out and said it in an SBS. Somebody asked Oda about Shocky already, like, hey, is Shocky, is the pirate crew she was talking about Rox's crew? And Oda's response to that was pretty much like, oh, I don't know. So it's pretty much, yeah, she was a member of the crew. Then we cut to the Sakura Kingdom in the first half of the Grand Line, where we see Dalton and Kureha arriving back. It says deer on her shirt now, referencing Chopper, of course. I love this scene. This scene is hilarious, and I would so love this to be in the main story of One Piece. Like, there's so much in this fan chapter that I could see adapted. Like, Oda could go that route with it in the manga. Artur and Gemini both really understood Oda's sense of humor and stuff. Some people have said, it's like, well, these chapters have a lot more exposition than a standard chapter. And I was like, well, so did the regular Reverie chapters. I mean, obviously, this is a fan chapter, so it's knocked into, like, 12th gear with the exposition. But, Reverie had a lot of information dumps as well. But this is a scene right here that I could definitely see being in the main story. So Dalton is reading the paper, and she's like, what do you think of this, Dr. Kureha? And of course Kureha responds with her typical, like, you want to know the secret to my youth then, don't you? And Dalton's like, no, I don't. Wait a second. You know what? What is this secret of your youth that you're always talking about? And Kureha's like, oh, well, now that you asked, after finally somebody asked after years. When I was younger, an old colleague of mine performed the perennial youth operation on me. God, that makes sense. No, seriously. Back up for a second and think. That makes perfect sense. There was a previous user of the op fruit that was colleagues with Kureha, because Kureha is one of, if not the greatest doctors in the world. Might even be way better than its surgery than Law, for instance. Law has his Oppie fruit, obviously, but Kureha is an amazing doctor. So it would make sense that, like, a previous user of the Op fruit that we know is a doctor would have known Kureha and then perform the operation on Kureha, like, Kureha, you're one of the greatest doctors in the world. You need to stay alive as long as possible to help out as many people as you can. I'll use my Eternal Youth operation and I'll give you this power. And so here we are, Kureha, rocking 141 years old, which even like other characters in the story that are superhuman, like Garp and Sengoku, you know, characters that are well within like and Rayleigh as well, characters that are in their late 70s, they still look like they're aging like normal. And so, you know, Kureha, the reason Oda gave for her living so long is like, oh, well, you know, she's a doctor, so she can survive that way, and also she's superhuman, but, you know, she goes beyond other people, but, you know, I'm just saying, like, she looks pretty good for 141, at least her body, you know, look, like, that's the weird thing about Kureha's design, is that her lower body looks like someone in her 20s, like, Oda does not draw her lower body any different than he draws, like, Nami or whatever. It's just the face, you know? But if she had the Eternal Youth operation performed on her, that would make perfect sense. So I hope that Oda adapts that to the main story. That's perfect there. So now we cut all over the world. We see Moria, we see Dofi, we see Crocodile, we see Hancock. Don't let a single one of them on the island. We see Miss Bakin. How troublesome. They've also restored my bounty from the time I was in Rocks. Mommy, help! The Marines are attacking. Buggy's there! How many digits is this bounty? So, Buggy got a huge bounty increase. I have no idea what it could possibly be. We see Mihawk clashing with freaking Kizaru here, just like, oh, you know, boom! Don't waste my time. Tell headquarters that they're serious about capturing me. They better send all 3 admirals. Dracul Mihawk bounty, hold on, 3,690,000,000. I've also already showed that off in one of the Warlord bounty videos I did recently. So yeah, that's a pretty sizable bounty, and it is higher than even not Whitebeard's, it's even higher than Blackbeard's bounty, which in this context would make Mihawk a Yonko, or one of the emperors, or on the same level as an emperor. You know, so I have no idea how big Buggy's bounty is. Buggy's bounty, by comparison, has to be at least 15 billion, right? Yeah, 15 million to 15 billion, that makes sense there. You know, a lot of people are hesitant about the Shishibukai having bounties on the levels of Yonko, and I'm just like, well, if, you know, their bounties have been frozen for so long, and also the government knows more about their skills, if anything, if they really are serious about bringing them in and their threat levels, then they would be as probably high as at least a Yonko, I think, at least with Mihawk. I mean, you might say something about Hancock or Weevil or Buggy, of course, but in the case with at least Mihawk, I think Mihawk, facing off against any Yonko, he might have the ability to actually defeat them. You know, it wouldn't be a guaranteed victory or anything like that, but Mihawk against Big Mom, I wouldn't just give that victory to Big Mom and call it a day. Mihawk might be able to slice Big Mom right, like you know? So in that sense, getting a bounty as high as he did, I think that's fair. But yeah, Mihawk's a little bit more, you know, he's a lot arrogant here. He's just like, you want to bring me in, you better send 3 admirals, damn it. You know, just Kizaru, pfft, are you guys even serious about bringing me in? You know, you got Crocodile over here. Apparently, Crocodile is aware of Dragon. He's known Dragon, at least, which makes sense, because Crocodile has a connection with Ivankov. You know, Moria's like, so they've restored everyone's bounties, huh? Kishi. And then Dofi's there like, I can't wait to get new cellmates. Dofi's just like, I just want company, you know, because they cleared out level 6 to have just Dofi by himself because how dangerous he was. So moving on, though, this was an epic scene here, just seeing Mihawk clash with Kizaru and his light sword and Yoru. That is amazing. Then we cut over to Blackbeard's side of things, where we see him on one of the Tart ships, or we see Caesar on one of the Tart ships. We don't see Blackbeard yet. It's Lafitte and Shiryu that I guess, you know, Caesar took one of the Tart ships just like Beiji did to escape the island, to escape Totland, and Lafitte ended up capturing Caesar by accident. So that's not good that Blackbeard now has access to Caesar's powers. Caesar's just like, but I just escaped, come on, guys! Caesar is used as a butt of a joke a lot of times in the story, but let's not forget the fact that Caesar is ridiculously useful. I mean, he has the ability to make all these different gas weapons and everything. He knows how to make artificial devil fruits. He knows how to make the sad. You know, this is... Oh, I get it. The material that used to make the smiles is called sad. Sad smiles. I see what you're doing, Oda. I see what you're doing. A little bit of symbolism there. Okay. I get you. All right, so now we cut to this is honestly my favorite part of the chapter. So we see, this sea, fog. Is there really no other option? You know better than anyone it's our best chance at the moment. Okay, so we see a shadowy individual staring at a big screen of Kuma here. But more importantly than, oh wait, no, is this the scene? Oh no, it's coming up here. So this is actually a scene with Vegapunk. This is a great scene as well, but this isn't my favorite. So we see Tashigi and Smoker hanging out with the kids from Punk Hazard, like Mocha's there and everybody. Yeah, I get where you're coming from, but this isn't going to sit well a lot of my men. Besides, I don't know how to feel that you strung us together like this. That was your plan from the start, wasn't it, Vegapunk? So the person sitting in the cool, swivel Bond villain chair is actually Dr. Vegapunk. We see Kuma up there on the monitor. He's still just in silhouette. So even in the fan chapter, we don't get to see what Vegapunk looks like. So there still has to be a mystery. Don't worry, guys. Vegapunk will appear at some point in the story. Maybe Vegapunk ate the silhouette fruit. Maybe Green Bull didn't eat the silhouette fruit. Maybe Vegapunk ate the silhouette fruit. So he's just forever in silhouette. But, yeah. Actually, I don't even really think in the main manga we've really seen Vegapunk even in silhouette too much. We've only seen, like, the lower part of his body. Like, he's a tall dude with a latex glove and the striped shirt. And I think that's all we've really seen from Vegapunk. We really haven't even seen a silhouette of him. So, very, very mysterious character. But that's touching base with Smoker and Tashigi. And they're heading to Vegapunk, I assume. And they're not really super happy with the plan here because Vegapunk has been kind of playing both sides with world government and the revolutionaries. But I'm assuming he definitely sides with the revolutionaries, as we'll find out. But here is my favorite scene from the chapter, other than Carrot being in the cover page. We see a Newsku flying through the air, immediately gets struck by lightning, drops the paper, and it lands in the hands of a very familiar individual. World government. Kings? Humph. Why would this world need any of those? And then we see a very familiar arc making its way through the clouds. When it's new God, it's coming its way. Yeah! And we see God Eneru rocking a pretty cool, he's got some scruff and he's got an epic mane of hair. Over the last 2 years, he's grown out his hair in an epic fashion. Rocking the goatee and the mustache, kind of like 5 o'clock shadow, and he's flanked by his mighty army of automata in his Arc Maxim, descending upon the Blue Sea world, ready to just take over the entire place. So, if you couldn't figure it out already, this entire chapter is just a love letter to every One Piece fan. Like, let's just cram everything in. You want to see Vegapunk? Bam, there's Vegapunk. You want to see Eneru? Bam, there's Eneru. You want to see Mihawk clashing with Kizaru? Bam, you got it. My God, I love this. So now moving on, because yeah, we just do Eneru, but then we just move on to the Kamabaka Kingdom again, where Dragon finally gets in contact with Sabo. At least he thinks it's Sabo. However, it is actually not Sabo. It's another individual that explains that, I am the commander of Sword. We're a marine unit working directly, I'm working independently from the world government. We formed this unit with an objective to reform the current corrupt system, to do away with the warlords, the emperors, and the ancestral dragons. Don't worry, I'll ensure your subordinates are okay. Koala's there crying because she cares about Sabo. But he's like, but there's something I wanted in exchange, As you're likely aware, someone among the Celestial Dragons has been amassing weapons to wage war on the world, and as a countermeasure, Dr. Vegapunk has done the Pacifista program. So he's like, yeah, he can execute Order 66 whenever he wants. He can flip the switch on the freaking Pacifistas, and they'll listen to whatever Vegapunk says, taking over the world government. He could basically do that whenever he wants. And then we also get a close-up of Blackbeard's ship, so it's like, oh, so is this individual working for Blackbeard? Like, what's going on here? But then we find out, of course, we may share different beliefs, and I may not condone all your actions, but our goal is one and the same. I'd rather not resort to this, but we have no other... Do you want to guess who it is? Pretty sure you've already guessed who it is. But bam! It is Commander of Sword, Kuzan, formerly Admiral Aokiji, captain of Blackbeard's 10th ship, Undercover. So, I think I mentioned this in one of my videos where I was talking about Aokiji's goal, but if we knew that Kobe and Drake are part of Sword, and Drake is actually undercover in Kaido's crew, then it would make sense that if Aokiji being an undercover member of Blackbeard's crew would also be a member of Sword, right? Because they're both Marines that have, stated to have left the Marines that are now currently working for Yonko. So if Drake is a member of Sword, it would make perfect sense for Kuzan to be a member as well. I'd rather not resort to this, but we have no other option. I wish to propose an alliance with the Revolutionary Army, and that's where we get that scene there. So, yeah. Also, it says Commander of Sword. I think it actually goes in, if we're going by basic Marine ranks, it goes Commander, Captain, and then Commodore. And I believe it said that Drake was a Captain of Sword. I'm not really sure, though, if the Marine ranks carry over to Sword, or if when it says Commander of Sword, that means Kuzan is quite literally just the top apex of Sword, which him being a former admiral would have certainly made sense if he was, but I'm not really sure what that really refers to. So now we cut back over to Reverie, or at least to Marige while Reverie is effectively over. So now we get to the end of this. Well, okay, we get to the second half of this chapter, I should say. This is the end of the chapter, but it's still very long, because this is where we just throw out all freaking, all guesses and all theories, and we just lay out what the Will of D is, and we just lay out what the history of the Void Century was, and it's beautiful. Obviously, it's just a fan interpretation, clearly, unless Gemini and Artur manage to gain access to a time machine and travel into the future and then come back and relay it to us here. But, let's do this. Okay. So, I mean, like, I'm just saying this right straight up. Like, it's obviously a fan chapter, but if you're somebody that's like, I don't even want to hear anything that might possibly be the Will of D or a different interpretation. I want to be just purely surprised, because there's actually been some people that have said, I don't want to, learn what Artur and Gemini's perspective is, because that might get me hyped up for something in the main story, and the real, like you see something in this chapter and be like, man, I really want that to be the case, but the actual thing that might happen in One Piece might be different, and you might not like that as much as this. I've actually seen some people come and comment that, and I'm sure Artur and Gemini have gotten comments like that too. So if you don't want to know Artur and Gemini's interpretation of the Will of D or the Void Century, this would probably be the point to stop. But we're going to continue now. Okay. While the events that transpired at the Holy Land were quite tumultuous indeed, they are not the unprecedented incident we had mentioned. Said incident, one of far more catastrophic results, would only take place after the Reverie concluded. So now we see Cobra, King of Alabasta, Cobra Nefertari, arrive at the Room of Authority, or the Empty Throne Room, where the 5 elders are usually gathered, and he's like, where are the 5 elders? And he's like, oh yeah, they're dead. They're dead. Dragon pushed them out of a window and they fell about 5,000 meters into the sea. Yeah, they're straight up dead. Welcome, Cobra, King of Alabasta. I am King Imu, King of the world. I'm King Im, King of the world. It's kind of redundant statement, redundant. Okay, but alright. So there's Im just rocking out on the empty throne, not even caring. He's like, yeah, they're dead. I'm the ruler of this world. Dead? How is that possible? And who the hell are you? Strange, shadowy person. Their death is lamentable, but while they once used to rule the world, that position has now fallen to me. Of course, I'm sitting on the empty throne. Regardless, I believe there is something you want from me. How convenient. There is something I also want from you. So now he's really acting like a Bond villain at this point. He's got the monologuing down. I may not have long to live, but I want to know the truth. Why did the government erase the Void Century? And I love it. Im, like he's like a child waiting for Christmas morning, is like, very well then. Do you want to know it? Do you want me to tell you? I'm going to tell you. I've been waiting for like hundreds of years to tell this to somebody. I've only had like my 2 servants and the Gorosei to talk to for like 800 years. I want to tell you this, so screw it. I'll tell you the truth. All of it. The Void Century revolves around the existence of a certain great kingdom. So that was already known. That was already established at Ohara. A dreamlike country that now lies hidden at the end of the Grand Line. The kingdom's influence spread across the whole world, but the aim of its king, Joy Boy, was not to rule over others. Joy Boy, we already kind of established, possessed unnatural hockey with the ability to speak to all races, all species of the world, humanoid or animal, it doesn't matter. So we see this beautiful, picturesque utopia where we see giants building houses for humans, we see Skypians there, we see Shandorians, we see Tontatas, we see minks, we see a giant snake in the background, all working together in perfect harmony. And then everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. But no, so Joy Boy used his power to kind of gather everybody together and is like, hey, I can use my power to, communicate, so we have this perfect society. So everyone's working together. However, his ideals of equality were not shared by everyone. There were many humans, specifically, that viewed the races of the world as creatures no different than wild beasts, as inferior. For most humans, it was socially logical to treat them as inferior, but Joy Boy wanted to create a world that was perfect. So this is definitely something that Oda does a lot in his story, tie this back to real-world events and stuff like that. So, yeah, the fact that there were humans in this perfect utopia that were like, hey, we're bigger than the Tontatas, therefore we're superior, like, that's just referencing back to hatred that humans have propagated for a very long time. Racism and sexism and, more racism here, obviously, but just the idea that, like, oh, humans are superior, to other species. And that's an overall message that Oda has definitely pushed in his story quite a bit throughout the years, just with the fishmen being slaves of the world government of humans and forced to live on the ocean floor. I mean, that's pretty much overtly right there, right? So Joy Boy's dream was for all the races of the world to coexist under the same sun. Or in other words, to dawn in a new era where all could live freely and equally. Many countries joined his cause, bearing the mark of the sun in their emblems as proof of their allegiance. Joy Boy made a promise to all of them that he would one day usher in the dawn of the new world. So that's kind of the impetus for the dawn, the idea of the dawn of the world that's been referenced so many times in One Piece. And then here we have a silhouette of a precursor of the Kozuki clan, of Fishmen, and of Shandorians. And they all have tattoos. And so, yeah, the Fishman tattoo is kind of like obviously a sun. But the other tattoos that the Kozukis and the Shandians wear is also similar as well to the sun. So it's all a different take on the sun. It's all about another, it's a dream for the dawn. We see the flag of Alabasta in the background. That's also something that's just come up with, I think, for this. But we see that's a sun. And we see an individual way in the back that kind of looks like Kaido's dad. Like, if you were gonna tell me that was Kaido's dad, I'd believe him. Like, big bearded dude with horns. There's Kaido's pappy. Maybe his grandfather, because this was a long time ago. But then Okay. It's a meme, but I love it. But Joy Boy would eventually be betrayed by his own wife, the queen of the kingdom, Umi. Umi just means sea in Japanese. And that's also Emu's name reversed. She grew apart from the ideals of the man she once loved. Believing the world had been ruled by a single responsible and strong entity, she thought only she was fit to lead it, wishing to achieve so by becoming king of the world. So Umi's like, I'm the goddess of the sea, and I'm the I'm doing that. So, yeah. We can kind of see where this is going. To achieve such strength, she gave birth to a powerful weapon that would grant abilities capable of bending the genetic code. She was the progenitor of it all, the mother of every devil fruit. However, Umi gave Joy Boy the chance to rule by her side by offering him to eat the devil fruits together. So they were married and they were together and everything's peaceful and happy, but then freaking Umi kind of pulls the switch and she's just like, okay, I think I should rule over everything. We can rule over everything, Joy Boy, join the sea side, the dock side or whatever, so to speak. And the guy made these devil fruits and we can eat them and we can become rulers of the freaking planet. What do you say? And Joy Boy refused, begging her to stop, but the temptation of power was simply too strong, and Umi bit into the fruit. This turned her, once a beloved monarch, into the very image of the devil. People began calling her the Sea Devil. So we already saw part of this story being told by the Gorosei in Chapter 2, But this is the true story told by Im. And it's like, it wasn't Joy Boy that became the devil, it was Umi, his wife, the goddess of the sea, that became the true sea devil. And then we see two halves splitting off, working to fight against each other. We see the faction of the Dawn, who wanted the world to be free, and they were led by Joy Boy, as well as the two children, Poseidon and Uranus, and many of his allies joined him, including the Kozuki clan, Minks, Fishmen, the Shandians, the Kuja, and the Sorbet Kingdom Alliance. So we see, one of the... Is this... It looked like Ryuma, but this would have happened even before Ryuma, because Ryuma was like 400 years ago, and this would have happened like during the Void Century, so this would have happened over 800 years ago, between 800 and 900 years ago. So that couldn't be Ryuma, but that's one of the original members of the Kozuki clan. There we have one of the original empresses of the Kuja, Fishman, a Shandian with actually like Boa Hancock's hair. It looks rather fabulous. And we see the original Poseidon, of course, the sea devil, or the sea mother, Umi's child there, all taking up, stand against the sea devil. The faction of the Dusk, who desired a world to be ruled by the strong. They were commanded by Umi and her daughter Pluton, which I'm assuming this is Pluton right here, who had betrayed her father as well. Umi offered her fruits to the rulers of 20 countries, who all craved and envied the power Joy Boy held, desiring it for themselves. So that's the origin of the world government right there. They have 20 kings that are like, hey, I'm the Sea Devil, I'm the ruler of the world. If you come and help me fight against Joy Boy and his faction of the Dawn, then I'll give you all magical fruits that give you superpowers. And a lot of the kings were just like, sure, okay, that sounds good. We could rule the world together. So we see one with the power of like the Mara instance, and this one I guess has the power of the Glinklin fruit, So that's the basic shakedown of the fight here. So there was a big epic war, and it all came to a head on the home island where this utopia apparently lived. In a final siege at the kingdom's home island, Joy Boy and Umi engaged in a long confrontation where both sustained lethal injuries. But alas, it was too late. Umi used her great powers to summon a great storm and sink the island beneath the waves. And yet, with his final breath, Joy Boy uttered these words. You ready? Okay. These are things that cannot be stopped. Inherited will, people's dreams, the destiny of an era. As long as people keep searching for the meaning of freedom, these things will never cease to be. And this passage came to be known as the Will of D. So there's the origin of that. So many of you will probably recognize that passage because it is a passage. Now, there's been different translations, different versions of that passage. I remember in the 4Kids dub, it was something like, as long as there are those that... No, I don't think that was the 4Kids dub. I think that was the Funimation where they did that particular version. As long as there are those that seek freedom in this life, these things shall not vanish from the earth. Yeah, that was the second opening, believe, had that line in the Funimation version, the English dub. In the Japanese, it would be a little different. In the 4Kids, it would be a little different, obviously. They were Goldie Rogers, like one of his last words, there's inherited will. There are things in this world that will always exist, and that came to be known as the Will of D. So the Will of D is not, as I probably figured, if you want to say it means something like just a word, I guess it would mean destiny or dream or dawn. Probably dream would be the best goal here. But the Will of D is not just, like, the D doesn't just stand for a single word and that's it. Like, the D stands for dreams and then that's it. Game over. It's a passage. It's a will, so to speak. Like, the Will of D is literally the will of Joy Boy. That's what it is. I would like that to be more of the case than just it being a single word. Because I think, like, at this point, everybody has already thrown out every possible D word that it could be. Like, it's not hard. Like, you could just list all these D words. One of them, if the Will of D was literally just a single word, one of these words would have already been guessed already. So I think Oda is going to make it similar to this. I don't think this is going to be it, because this was something that was already stated. I think Oda might come up with, like, okay, no, the Will of D is literally the dying will of Joy Boy. And it's going to be not a very long speech. It's not going to be anything ridiculously huge, not like an actual will. Like, I leave this to this, I leave this person, like all this stuff. No, it's not going to be anything like that. It's going to be probably a passage, maybe around the same length as this right here, but it's going to be something a little different. But I could see the will of D being a passage rather than a word, a single word. It was a prophecy. Joy Boy told Umi that he would not die, and that one day, 800 years into the future, he would be inherited to bring the dawn of this world into existence. Okay. Umi was outraged by such a declaration, vowing that if Joy Boy ever returned, she would do so as well. So basically, they were just like a quarreling couple. They were like married, and things didn't work out too well, and they, have this massive war that almost destroys the world, and then they're all beat to shit, and they're all like, I'm never dying. I'm going to come back 800 years from now, and we're going to bring the world into the dawn. And she's like, oh, well, if you're coming back, I'm going to come back too. And then that's kind of, that was the kind of origin of that story. And then Cobra's there, and he's like, wait. He would not die? What are you talking about? What does that mean? And Eames there like, oh, think of the will as the same as hockey. Hockey is basically the physical manifestation of our will, bending reality itself. So when one's willpower defies natural boundaries, it can bend anything, even forge destiny itself. Man, Emu is very talkative. He's much more talkative than I originally assumed he would be. What Joy Boy must have meant is that his will was so strong that it would remain even after death. And one day, 800 years later, he would be reincarnated. Okay, so they're going with the reincarnation angle here. Yeah, I don't really know how I feel about the straight-up reincarnation, like Luffy or Dragon or Shanks or Roger was like the physical reincarnation of Joy Boy. I like more of the inherited will aspect, not so much that, like look at it this way. I don't like to look at it like Luffy got freaking the voice of all things from Joy Boy. Not like it's some sort of like Ashura Ashura from like Naruto, where like, oh, you got Ashura's chakra, Naruto, nothing like that. I don't think it's like that. I think it's just like Luffy awakened the power on his own, but he has a connection to Joy Boy through that inherited will, but it's not like a legitimate like spirit reincarnation or anything like that. But I do like I know what the intent is. It's like hockey literally means willpower, or it can mean willpower or ambition. And so that hockey is literally an ambition that carries it down through the generations to Dragon and Roger and Shanks and Luffy. That's what carries it on. That said, before she passed away, Umi took over the kingdom and reformed it into the world government. So Umi threw up, her own kingdom there. That's what the world government became. The 20 kings revered her as a goddess. However, they were also very afraid of her, and her holy mausoleum was on God Valley, so that's the origin of that. They were very scared of her and human power. They shared her ideals of privilege, but they wanted it all for themselves. They didn't want anything they didn't want to revive her as a goddess or anything like that. They were too afraid. It's like nobody should have that much power to destroy the entire world with an epic storm if they wanted to. So they're like, yeah, we're not gonna aim to revive her or anything of that nature, but we are going to follow her overall ideals of privilege. And they saw Umi as an extension of Joy Boy as their natural enemies from there on, and they would bring another storm just like the one she unleashed, but they would do it on their own, They began a great act of censorship. They hunted down all the related kingdoms, so you see the Fishmen and the Kuja there. They decided to pass down the initial D. This is the descendants of Joy Boy. So then we cut over to Wano, long time ago at the end of the Void Century, where we see the stonemasons crafting the poneglyphs. We see the original, I guess this is the Shogun of Wano back in the day, the original member of the Kozuki clan, and he's like, the government has become too powerful, we must close Wano's borders, Toki, you must run away from here. So Toki is a lot younger here, where she begins her epic time traveling adventure. Toki, panic, so she has to go through all that. Time traveling girl. And the day the new Joy Boy will bring us the dawn will come someday. And then we see the weapons, the ancient weapons, Poseidon, Uranus, and Pluton there. Said legends claims that these three behemoths of species would work together. Well, wait, hold on. The said legend claims the three behemoth species of the world recognize this hockey as that of their leaders of the three dragon gods. Okay, and so here's where we find out what the ancient weapons truly are. We have Uranus, king of the sky, are actually the colossal elephants that Zunisha is part of the species, the long-limbed elephants. Because of a certain crime one of them committed, almost all of them went extinct. I'm assuming maybe that little elephant off to the side is maybe Zunisha. And then the Sea Kings are Poseidon's power, the enormous sea leviathans. And then we have the Earth Kings that are Pluton, which are giant. These are the things that we saw at Thriller Bark. Like, these are the Land Kings, these giant earthing golems that could, as you could see, these things could completely annihilate an entire island in one go. So we thought Pluton was a battleship, but these things pretty much would be a mobile battleship. Like, I mean, these things are pretty devastating in of them themselves, like the things as big as those images we saw at Thriller Bark. But you can mount, like, cannons onto these things. You could have, like, missile launchers on these things, and they would even be more devastating, right? So we're coming to the end here, and I kind of showed part of that, but let's just show it. Okay, so they talk about the Noah a little bit. Joy Boy promised her that he would help her people emigrate to the surface of the sun. They even built an ark to help them emigrate, but he was not able to fulfill that. And then he asked Cobra, a very interesting question. Tell me, Cobra, do you know the name of this world? And Cobra's like, I thought this world had no name. And he's like, yes, it was lost in the censorship along with everything else. But it turns out this world does have an ancient name, and the name is the All Blue. Drop the mic. So that actually makes a lot of sense, given the fact the world is divided into, you know, East Blue, West Blue, North Blue, South Blue, you know. It would make sense that the actual planet's name altogether would be All Blue, which is, of course, the place where all the sea monsters, not sea monsters just, but all the sea creatures live together in one place. And that's obviously Sanji and Zeph and all of the chef's goal, is to find an ocean like that. So I guess the ultimate idea here that Eam is pushing out here is, you know, that they use their powers to create a great barricade, which would, of course, become the Red Line. And the Red Line is unnatural, so if you take away the Red Line, then the place where all of the sea life live together is the entire planet. It's all oceans connected as one. This has been a theory that's been around for a long time. It isn't just something that, you know, Artur came up with here. Although Artur might have come up with the whole name for the planet being All Blue. I'm not sure, but it was probably talked about at some point, at some place, you know, because this has been discussed for, you know, decades. But yeah, the idea is the Red Line will fall. If not all of it, at least parts of it that connect the Grand Line, and the entire world will be unified in one ocean. She asked the Sea Kings to protect the sides of this current as well as her homeland, and the Sea Kings never attack Fishman Island, but will pursue any ships that approach it. So the Sea Kings are there to protect Fishman Island as like a permanent order that Poseidon gave them years ago. So that's why the Sea Kings don't, you know, like gobble up, you know, the Fishman Island whenever they want. But her sister Pluton caught wind of this and created created the barricade of her own around the world using her devil fruit. She made the Earth Kings merge into a colossal wall she called Tartarus. Okay, so the Red Line is basically the walls from Attack on Titan. Okie dokie. Okay. These became the Grand Line and the Red Line. Oh, okay. Poseidon created the Grand Line, and Pluton created the Red Line. All right, I misunderstood that for a second. Okay, so that's how that went down. I could see that happening. I could definitely see that going down. It's kind of like Attack on Titan here, but yeah, I could see that happening. Those things at Thriller Bark were definitely tall enough, you know, to make something like this. So they got all the Colossal Titans together and they merged and they created the... Tartarus is the castle that was before Pangaea. So that makes sense there. And the Shipwrights of Water 7 built a colossal battleship as a countermeasure with cannon fire enough to destroy the Red Line. So there's how Pluton is actually a ship and yet not a ship. It's just a countermeasure for said ship. But it was simply a weapon made to counter the real Pluton. Even if it was destroyed before it could fulfill its purpose, I tried to attain its blueprints some years ago through Cypherpool. That was the whole Water 7 Ennie's Lobby arc, but they were not able to retrieve them. So that's the whole story behind Pluton there. And we're getting to the end of the chapter. I know, this is a long one, right? It's a pretty long chapter, but it's the end, so here we are. The only reason I wanted them to destroy them was that no one could ever counter the real Pluton, and that is precisely where you come in, King Cobra, because Pluton has remained hidden in the country of Alabasta, which is, of course, Crocodile's like, oh, Pluton is the most fearsome weapon, and it's in Alabasta, but it was not the actual ship of Pluton. That was not the original Pluton, so they got it mixed up. It wasn't like the ship of Pluton, the counter was not in Alabasta, when in reality it was actually the true Pluton, the original Pluton, married into the Nefertari clan in a political union. The current Pluton is your daughter, Nefertari Vivi. What? Yeah, so their Vivi is Pluton. It can't be! You must be lying! The Nefertari clan was one of the 20 families, but they defected. They banned them from entering the Holy Land, so they had no choice but to remain on the surface. However, given the Celestial Dragon's fear of those who associated with the kingdom... Oh, okay, so it wasn't the Nefertari family that defected, it was they were kicked out. Because they're like, you were part of the faction of the Dawn. You were part of Joy Boy's faction. We don't want you here. And they kicked him out. So that's where that goes. Afraid of persecution, the Nefertari clan erased all knowledge of Pluton, refusing to pass it down to their descendants. Your duty is to protect this stone. Don't make me laugh. Oh, interesting. So that's the flashback with Robin and Cobra there. But then, what do you have to do with all this? And Eames like, oh, do you recall what I said about Joy Boy and Umi? That they would not die, and they would return to this world, traveling through 800 years? The prophecy was true. Joy Boy's will was inherited by none other than Goldie Roger, and just as Umi's will was inherited by Roxty Zebek and Cobra's just like, no. 38 years ago, the two clashed, as it was once foretold, but Zebek was not defeated and could not stop Roger from reaching the final island. However, Roger had realized he was too early, and he found the One Piece too early, so the ancient weapons needed to restore the world back together had not been born yet. So, Pluton and Poseidon were not born yet in this instance. We still don't know a lot about Uranos here. I guess Uranos is just, I guess Momonosuke would be Uranos. He would be the leader of the Sky Gods, the Sky Kings. And so he tried to pass on his will to Ace, but despite all their efforts, Joy Boy cheated death once more and found himself a new vessel, the former crew member of Roger, Monkey D. Dragon. He is not aware of his identity yet, but he has already been subconsciously trying to eradicate the system that Umi built. This is also maybe be setting up, if Dragon does die, then Luffy inherits the will next as, the next vessel. Because they're getting the idea of, reincarnation, vessels involved here, you know what I mean? Only at the time of our fated clash will I be able to eradicate him for good. But, the idea is if Dragon dies, there'll be someone else, so, yeah. However, there was something Joy Boy had not anticipated. Zebek had desecrated Umi's grave and attained God Valley's national treasure, her devil fruit, the almighty Mizu no Mi. I actually did a video about that, and I'm glad that it's vindicated, at least here. After he was defeated, Zebek used his powers to sink the island, allowing him to escape. He made the world believe he disappeared, but that he was simply an act to let him in the shadows. So, the power of the Mizu no Mi pretty much... I had a different perspective on what the water fruit would do, but this perspective is literally it's the strongest. You eat it, and the weakness of water does not apply to you. You can control the entire ocean, essentially. You can swim. You don't have the same weaknesses as everybody else. He presented himself to the 5 elders, threatening them with powers and knowledge, and just like how they feared Umi, they feared him, not because they respected him or anything, it's just because they were afraid of him being, like destroying them. And then, boom! The big shocker of the chapter after this whole thing is, I am Im, king of the world, and the reincarnation of the sea devil Umi. Thanks to the perennial operation surgery I have once undertook, I have been biding my time and amassing power. And then we have former Roxty Zebek, who wanted to become king of the world, did become king of the world, Im. Just gonna take you a second to kind of soak that in. Yep. And so he has Vivi there, trapped with the water fruit, kind of like handcuffs, kind of like Galette's butterfruit at Totland. Keep your hands off Vivi! You misunderstand. Pluton isn't what I desired from you, as she is already in my grasp. I need her to awaken, which only happens under emotional pressure. So it's like the Sharingan. It's like the Mangekyo Sharingan. And what I want from you is not, your daughter necessarily, but your life! And so he uses the water powers to kill Cobra right then and there, which that was coming in the manga. Like, that's been established for a while that was going to happen. And then, boom, awaken, Pluton, show me your true power. And then Vivi begins crying, and then I don't know if this is like the things from Thriller Bark, or it's like the red line is awakening. An incident of unprecedented scale took place. Yeah, no shit! Who will win? The dawn or the dusk? Wahahaha! And then the last scene of the chapter, seriously. We have Dragon here at Kamabaka remembering his last meeting with Roger. Captain Roger, is that really you? Oh, Dragon! Long time no see. This was 24 years ago, shortly before Roger's execution. So this was before, I guess, he disbanded the crew. You know, Dragon, even if I did get to that final island like I always dreamed of, I've realized that just getting there wasn't what one dream was really about. I suppose in the end, I was too early. Someone will eventually surpass me and find the treasure in my stead. And Dragon's like, well, is that what you meant when you just told me? That thing about that man, Joy Boy, he said he wouldn't die. Yeah, but don't take that too literally. It's not like he reincarnated. Oh, okay, so they do. Okay, it's not like reincarnation or anything like that. Reminds me of that Rox fella. Oh, okay. So Rox was wrong as well. So, you know what? They're keeping it ambiguous, which is what I like. He was completely deluded, and that he thought that me and yeah. Oh, okay, so this is hilarious. So it's like when Roger was fighting Rox, Rox was like, "You're the reincarnation of Joy Boy, and I'm the reincarnation of a sea devil." And Roger was just like, "What the hell are you smoking, dude? We're just guys." You know, whatever. No, Joy Boy meant something different when he said he would not die. And do you know when it is when someone truly dies, Dragon? It's when they're forgotten. Because even after someone passes on, their memories will linger within us. Those people continue to live on in our hearts. They inspire us, pushing us to pursue their dreams. I think that's quite simply what Joy Boy meant with the Will of Dreams, that people's dreams will never end. His dream was passed down generation through generation. And here we have the final page right here. So when the new Joy Boy is born and finally brings the dawn to this world, it won't be because of their destiny, their lineage, or some dumb prophecy. It will be because of their honest-to-goodness dream. And dawning in that era unifies the world where anyone can explore in an endless adventure. I would suppose you could call that a romance dawn. So I love that. And yeah, I love that. That was Roger's dream, his reverie. I love that because I don't like prophecies. I don't like bullshit prophecies in like stories like, you are the chosen child, therefore from birth you will then rule the world or defeat the big evil or whatever. I don't like that. I don't like that. I like what Artur did here. I like the Romance Dawn aspect of it, because Oda also has a love affair with Romance Dawn. He loves using Romance Dawn. That's obviously the first chapter of the series. But anyway, yeah, it was mentioned, like, yeah, if Luffy is really going to save the world, it's not going to be because of a prophecy. It's not going to be because he was told to, or because of their lineage or their destiny. It's just because Luffy genuinely wants that freedom for everybody. That's what Luffy wants, and that's what Dragon and who else? That's what also like Garp embodies, kind of. He wants freedom for people. That's what Joy Boy wanted. That's what for all the members of the Will of D. Roger, Shanks, that's what they all really wanted. And so I guess you could look at it that Joy Boy has multiple people that are going to be his reincarnation, in air quotes, not literal reincarnation. But that's the end of the Return to the Reverie chapters. And yes, like I said, that was a very long chapter. That was almost an hour I've been doing this. But great way to end it out. There's a nice little afterword here if you would like to read that. An afterword by Artur. And then also an afterword by Gemini. Once again, all the links are below. And then we get a little sketch of Eam just being like, thanks for reading, everybody. Be safe driving home. It's like you're leaving a One Piece themed theme park and Eam's like the cardboard cutout at the end, like, drive them home safe, everybody. That's great. So yeah, that's the end. Once again, here's the team. Artur, Gemini. Gemini was the cover artist. Thanks to all the cover artists here. Robin, Joy Boy, O'Hara, Mr. Morse, Fiso, Lady T, Jack, Ninja Spidey, and Agent 65. Everybody did a great job with this project. Absolutely beautiful. Leave comments down below on what you think of all this, and if you think this is where the story is going to go, or if it's going to be something similar. I really kind of want Oda to read this, like Oda himself might have been reading this and start sweating like, oh Oh crap, this is oh man, this is exactly what I was gonna do. Shit. But no, I think Oda has a pretty good idea of what he's going to do, and it might tie back into this a little bit, honestly. That would be interesting. So anyway, yeah, right here, we are all non-kama. Yes, we are. Thanks to everybody. This will be the end of this, and yeah, now review One Piece chapter 997 tomorrow on Monday. I gotta get going, actually. I gotta hurry up and upload this because today I actually have to go to a viewing today. It wasn't anybody in my family that passed away, but it's a very close family that are friends with our family, and someone passed away there, so I actually have to head to a viewing right after I'm done uploading this. So yeah, anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. I gotta get going, but yeah, great end to this Return to the Reverie. Thanks to Artur and Gemini and everyone else involved. Signing out.